When did creativity stop becoming about play and started becoming about a product? When did every hobby need a business plan? And when did we start feeling the pressure to optimize our creations? Think about it. You can't just bake anymore. You have to open a bakery. You can't just paint. You have to sell prints. You can't just dance. You have to build a brand. Here is the truth that we don't talk about. We are living in an epidemic of creative monetization, and it is quietly damaging our mental health. Let me show you what happened. Hustle culture told us, turn your passion into a profit. If you're good at something, never do it for free. And everybody needs a side hustle. The girl boss era made entrepreneurship look like empowerment. And suddenly, creativity became a personal brand, a content strategy, a revenue stream, a performance. We were told if you're not monetizing it, you're wasting potential. Here is what the data shows. 72% of workers have considered or have a side hustle. And 61% of Gen Z feel pressure to monetize their hobbies. 61%. Not because they want to, because they feel like they have to. And 67% of side hustlers say their additional work has led to burnout. 2/3 burnt out from trying to turn their joy into income. And then social media amplified everything. It shifted creativity from expression to algorithm, from experiment to engagement, from play to performance, from curiosity to metrics. We don't just create anymore, we create to be seen. And being seen became validation, income, identity. And this has rewired our relationship with creativity. 41% of creators struggle to maintain a consistent content schedule, and only 46% of creators say that they're actually finding success. 58% are still struggling to monetize their work. And among those who do earn, 68% say they are unsatisfied with their income. This is the epidemic. It's not that we're not creating, it's that we can't create without the pressure. And here is what that pressure costs us. When everything is monetized, you can't be bad at anything anymore. You can't be a beginner. You can't experiment privately or fail quietly. And yet, exploration without expectation is critical for our mental health. Without it, our anxiety increases and perfectionism spikes. Our creative blocks multiply and our burnout accelerates. 44% of Gen Z side hustlers report burnout and exhaustion, and only 16% are managing to stay balanced. 16%. The rest are stretched thin. They're coping. They're barely hanging on. We've confused our worth with our output, our identity with our income, and our creativity with achievement. With the create phase, it's not about the rise. Creativity is exploration, and the rise is the work. When we skip create and when we go straight to rise, when we monetize before we explore, we build careers without aliveness. We perform instead of explore, and we burn out faster. And burnout rates among creators are rising exponentially. 66 creators with 2 years or less of experience report burnout, and that rises to 80% with those with 8 or more years of experience. 8 out of 10 long-term creators are burnt out, not because they're weak, but because they never learned to create without the pressure. So let's bring this back to biology. Humans are wired to solve problems, to imagine possibilities, to combine ideas. And when that creative energy has no outlet, when it's always tied to performance and metrics and income, it turns into rumination, anxiety, dissatisfaction. Creation is mental hygiene. Art therapy research shows a reduce in anxiety, a reduce in depression symptoms, an increase in a sense of meaning, and an increase in self-worth. Creating without pressure regulates the nervous system. It builds resilience and it restores our humanity. But we can't access that if every creative act has to justify its existence. And here is the part that ties it all together. When life is stable, when safety is handled, when income is handled, when relationships are stable, but you're not creating, the brain will invent problems. You overanalyze, you pick fights, you spiral, you feel bored and empty. Restlessness is creative energy with nowhere to go. But if your only outlet for creativity is monetized, if every creative act is tied to deadlines and expectations and audience and metrics, then you can't use creativity to soothe your restlessness. Because it's not soothing anything. It's stressful. There is this myth, if you love it, you should monetize it. Or if you follow your passions, the money will come. I want to challenge this directly. Not everything sacred should become a revenue stream. When we monetize everything, we include deadlines and expectations and evaluations and performance. Some creativity must remain private and amateur and unoptimized and unseen. In the book In Defense of Dabbling, Karen Walron celebrates the brilliance of being a total amateur, doing things badly on purpose, trying something new with no expectation of mastery. Being an amateur protects your joy. Because the moment you attach income to it, the moment you make it productive, it stops being about creation and it becomes work. Let me give you an example from my own life. I do live a creative life and I do monetize my creativity, but there are certain creative aspects that I monetize, like dancing, singing, and YouTube. These are things that I do professionally and they live in the rise category. And it's okay to have creativity that you monetize. But there is also creativity that I keep sacred, away from monetization, away from expectations, away from pressure. These are things that I protect, like film photography, like writing or rhinestoning. Film photography, for me, it's sacred. There's no deadlines, there's no expectations, there's no clients, there's no editing pressure. There's just light and experimentation and composition. The same thing with writing. It's just words and exploration. And rhinestoning, well, that's just sparkle. And I will never monetize these things. Not because I can't, but that separation, it is intentional. Some things are meant to stay sacred. And here is the deeper cultural wound. If you removed career and income and audience and metrics, would you still create? If the answer is no, that's not a personal failure. That is cultural conditioning. We were never taught how to play without performance, how to create without expectations. We were taught that our value is tied to our output, that rest must be earned and joy must be justified. And so we don't know how to create just for the sake of creating, just because it feels good, just because our brains want to explore. So here is the shift from how can this make me money to what does my brain want to explore? From will this be impressive to is this interesting? From is this scalable to is this alive? That is the reclamation. That is how we take creativity back. You don't need a brand or a side hustle or a content strategy or a monetization plan. You need a sketchbook or a notebook or a dance class or a camera or a paintbrush. Creation without expectation is a radical act in a monetized world. So let's tie this all into the paradise path. We have ground, we have feel, we have glow, we have create, and then we have rise. Create builds our capacity, it restores our aliveness, it stabilizes our mind, and it protects our joy. Then and only then can we rise sustainably. In the next video, we are going to finally move into the rise phase, which is all about identity and monetization and structure and work and productivity, but done in a way that integrates everything that came before. Thank you so much for being here on this journey with me. This was the create phase. You are exactly where you are meant to be. Welcome to your return to paradise.